it's great to have Brodie.
Pleasure.
Now, Brodie, for the record, say your surname properly.
Bukal.
Bukal.
Oh,
Thank you.
really?
Yeah.
Siri's had it wrong for a while.
Bukal.
Everyone says it wrong, right?
So
Tell me some of the variations
I've
you've
heard. Growing up on the athletics field, when you're getting called to the 100-metre final, I've heard bushel, like the T. I've heard buckle.
Buckle?
And the one I really don't like is butchel.
That's what I
heard
that's,
butchel.
That's
We could have Brodie butchel to the... I'm not going. So
you got to speak to
Bukal.
Siri.
Bukal.
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 Bukal. Where's it from?
German.
What?
German.
German.
So Dad was
Yeah.
Dad was born in Germany. So he was half German. Makes me quarter German.
Okay.
Quarter.
And Mum?
Mum was born here.
Okay.
Mum's parents were born here too, so she's Aussie. Her heritage goes back to like convicts in England.
A jail cell and a boat.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So dad's Germany, and Mum went back. Mum's side has a crazy history, and dad's. So dad's side was the circus. Dad grew up in the circus.
Yeah, actually, we spoke about this, eh?
Yeah, and Mum's side, Mum's father and his father, Mum's grandfather discovered gold in the Northern Territory in Ninbin. So they settled. There was a couple of gold mines, him and a mate, or whatever his name was.
wow.
Yeah, so both my parents' sides have crazy history. Yeah, and then Mum left home to go be a teacher in the circus, and that's where she met Dad.
Wow.
Teacher.
Yeah, she went to be a school teach
Teaching
the kids.
circus.
Yeah.
Teaching the circus kids. Like how to read and write and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I see. Teaching the circus.
Yeah.
Oh, because that'd be like on
It's
the
all
road.
all homeschool stuff. Yeah.
Come on.
So
then
your mum travelled around with them?
Well, she ended up joining the show. She ended up flying in the trapeze and stuff. She ended up being a trapeze artist. So she met Dad because Dad was catching. He was catching the girls.
He was catching her.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he asked her out while catching her. There you go. Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, no, you said no? I let you go. Oh, sorry, you said
Yeah.
no.
He's only got one option. No.
Oh.
Yeah, nice.
Wow. So, what number are you in the sibling list?
3 sisters. I got 2 older, 1 younger.
So were you brought up in the circus?
No. So when Mum and Dad fell pregnant, so when my oldest, Mum was still flying with my oldest sister, like pretty heavily pregnant. You wouldn't do it these days, like crazy stuff. And then, but I think just before she was born, Dad left the show. He wanted his kids to grow up in a different environment.
Oh, wow.
Only because it's just a hard environment. Yeah.
Wow.
It was like family-wise, it was very tight and safe and all that, but it's a hard slog just traveling around, like not a lot of money. It's a whole different lifestyle. So he joined, I think there was an ad in the paper for, I think he went and drove trucks for a while. Then the Northern Territory Police were offering people to do basically join the police, and they give you a house as well in Darwin.
yeah.
So they went and did that for a while. Dad became a police officer in some remote locations in the Northern Territory.
Geez, that's a good deal.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
House and a job.
Don't do it these days.
I'll sign up right now.
I know, it'd be pretty good.
What have you talked to him much about it? Because that interests me. What makes people want to get into the circus? Like, what's the appeal?
So Dad grew up in the circus because his mum was one of the 7 Ashtons. So Ashtons is a pretty famous circus name across. They sort of travelled all around the world, really. Still going now. So Dad was born into it, and Mum, I don't know why. I never really asked what the draw was, but Mum came from a pretty. She was born in the North Shore of Sydney. She grew up kind of like in a wealthy-ish family, and went and did that, which is the total opposite.
Yeah, she wanted out.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. So it took Dad a while to be accepted by Nan and Pop, because he was just this like big dude who like smoked and was in the circus, and they were real proper, who came from gold. So, and he drove like he drove one of those GT like Falcons, like it was just a bit different what they used to. So I don't know what the draw card was, but I know when he had kids, he wanted basically a different life for his kids. I mean, they grew up in 2 kids in the back of a caravan, like playing drums and guitar in a caravan, traveling around Australia and New Zealand in that weather, which is so different back then. Not much like different life.
Wow.
Different life, yeah.
So you had siblings?
3 sisters.
2
older, 1 younger. Yeah, I'm the only Christian I'm the only Jesus following.
Wow.
Yeah, of the kids. Yeah, so they all have the different beliefs and things, but even Mum and Dad. I think Mum sort of grew up going to Sunday school, and I think more of that probably that generation culturally a Christian or cultural faith. But I mean, I grew up myself pretty much an atheist. So I was an atheist until I walked into church. Yeah.
Okay, let's sort of journey down there.
Cool.
And saw your wife.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, wow, God's real. I'm on.
That's it. Yeah. How often does this happen? Okay.
So, growing up, no God consciousness?
No, I grew up in Central Coast, New South Wales. Didn't know anyone who went to church. We had one friend who kind of, and I got a group of mates. We knew, believed in God. I'd never really been to church. My only sort of observation of a church would have been like the stained glass and wooden pews and
funeral, wedding.
Yep. Yeah.
That sort of deal.
Yeah. And where we grew up was basically the goal of life was kind of get a trade, buy a house, or get married, whatever order that is. And that was kind of as far as the vision kind of went, I suppose, in our, like, play football, go to the pub, buy a house, get a wife, have some kids, stay in the same surf club, that kind of, which they love, which people do, amazing communities. But I always wanted to get out. I always wanted to, like, man, I can't wait to leave. I like the bigger, like hustling sort of stuff. So I can go back there now and enjoy it, but I wanted to get out of that sort of area when I was growing up.
So where did you end up?
I joined the Navy when I was 18, fresh 18, myself.
Straight from school.
Yeah, I've been about 6 months. So we did. I was working in an excavation company. We basically all went. A bunch of mates from school when we were in year 10 went and started doing the testing to get into the Navy. And basically, all of our parents said, "You're not going. You're finishing school." So they all said, "When you finish year 12, you can go." Right. And they thought we would pass. We wouldn't do it, but we just stayed for 2 more years playing footy, doing like very minimal at school. And then as soon as we can, we all joined. So we went like...
How many of you?
There was 5 in total, I think, who joined.
That would have been so fun.
Yeah, and 2 of us, my best mate at the time, we joined the same day. We were in the same room in recruit school, went through like... And no one knew we were best mates. We kept it secret.
Yeah, cool.
Nice.
So we were like bunking together in recruit school.
Sick. Otherwise, they would have split you up.
They would have split us for sure. So we just made a little pact and dominated. But didn't know the Lord back then at all. Very much. To be honest, I thought people were crazy who, like, I just couldn't fathom it. But I had a real spiritual side to things. You know, I used to be like, looking back now, I felt like I was very in tune with stuff, but just didn't know what it was. Yeah. And actually, it always scared me. Tried to shut it down.
So, okay, finish school, go to the Navy. How long are you in the Navy for?
6 years.
Wow, really?
Did 6 years in the Navy, living in Sydney, in about 3 or 4 years in Pyrmont.
Where's Pyrmont?
Pyrmont's like right near Darling Harbour.
Oh, yeah.
And then 2 years out in Maroubra. Yeah, travelled around the Navy and did that. And Navy was good.
Is that like coast guarding? Or is that like...
Depends, like different. I was on a few different ships. I was on some bigger ones and smaller ones. But the Navy was it's different again now. And people who said went a lot older than me, said it was so different then. But the Navy was this thing where I think it's really good for young guys because you do get forced to grow up quick. So there's a lot of guys who you can look at them like, man, you need something like the Defence Force to sharpen you up, get you in gear. Yeah. But I feel like as well, if you stay there, it can keep you young. It can keep you almost capped a little bit. I noticed when I left, I felt a lot older very quickly because when you're young, you kind of just playing football. It's just a very funny little world. The minute you step out, you kind of step into the real world of like, oh, the bills are bigger, not getting paid quite as much. Can't just play footy when I want. Like it just changed. So the mindset of leaving that was a whole different thing at 24 as well.
So 24, did you leave because you felt you'd reached the limit of your Navy career?
I did. I mean, I tried to get out for a while. I was trying to get out of the Navy because I decided it's not what I wanted to do. Okay. But I was contracted. You have to stay for 6 years. So I mean, I tried everything. I tried getting kicked out. But
you have to
back then because I did a trade. I owed them my time, so I studied electronic technician. Yeah. I did a study. I got my certificate and that, so I sort of owed them that time.
Right.
It'd be different if you were just like a general sailor or whatever.
I think still the minimum you sign off for is 4. Like as a chef is 4. Yeah. Yeah. But looking back now, those 6 years they got me every job after they're on because as soon as I said I was in the military for 6 years, people just give you a shot. on the next job or whatever I did. So it helped me a lot on my resume.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It's pretty cool to say.
I'm thankful for it now because looking back, yeah, it's something that was one I was proud of. At the time, I was never proud of it, as in you don't get that nostalgic feeling or whatever it is when you're younger. You just do it.
Yeah.
But man, I made some mates that mates for life. But yeah, now I really appreciate it because I went from there into sort of mining and offshore, and having that background got me those chances.
Remember, they teach you how to work there. Like that's real real work. And like you said, you grow up real quick. You do. They do. I agree with what you said. That makes sense because it's like they're like, yeah, be responsible, but then don't think too much. We just we'll do the rest of the thinking for you.
It is
so
like
grow
that.
up quick, but stop thinking here.
It is like that.
So, but that first grow up quick, work hard, be a man. That's legit.
Yeah.
Everyone that goes to the Navy and the Army, yeah, they can work. That's
because
you can't get that anywhere
there's no
else.
real like I don't know what it's like now, but any idea of being offended or that's like that wouldn't fly.
It'd be interesting what it's like now. Hey,
I had heard changes that made me laugh a bit, but like I mean, yeah, like when it's crazy when we joined, they took our phone off us. I couldn't imagine that now. They took your phone, didn't have a mobile phone for the first 3 months.
That's a good thing.
It was great. No
Sounds
phone.
like youth camp.
Yeah.
It's not 3 months, but it's 3
that's right.
days.
So no phones, which was pretty good. But you know, and yeah, nothing flied. Like there was no excuses. I tried it. I tried all the excuses. There was one time where I just didn't want to go to a muster. And
what's a muster?
Muster's like a roll call. Everyone's got to be there.
Oh yeah.
And I remember one time, I don't know what I was thinking, but I just said to the boys, I just tell them my locker wouldn't lock. Because you're not allowed to leave your stuff unlocked, right? If you leave your stuff unlocked, you can get trouble because that's inciting someone else to steal. So I just said, they call my name out. Just say my locker wouldn't lock, I'm fixing it. And I'd used to being able to talk my way out of stuff. It just didn't fly. They called my name out. The boys were laughing. It wasn't there. I paid for that for 3 days of mustering. Every hour, I had to go in a different uniform.
Every hour?
Every hour.
For 3 days.
All through the night. I think the first night was every hour, and then it was 2 more days of that, like every maybe 4 hours. But the first night was every hour.
In a different uniform.
In a different uniform.
Man, that's epic.
Because I said, still like, what's your excuse? I said, my locker wouldn't lock. And I'm like, what's your excuse? I just thought it would work, but no, it didn't work. So all that sort of stuff, there's no getting out of things, no scheming, black and white. No chance to be offended. So you just learn to just switch on.
Should be compulsory, eh?
Oh,
to do
yeah.
that. It is in Israel and some countries, eh?
I've always been, Israel, they're getting attacked every...
I think it's good to go do a year or two. If you could do 2 years. Yeah.
Wow. So then from there you went work like rigs and stuff.
I took a little bit of a break. I actually moved up here for a year and I was just bouncing at the casino. And at this time, so the day I left the Navy was the day that the next day, was when my wife Laura, we had our first date. So I took her on a date the day after I had my Navy, I'm out of here celebration. So then we started dating. And then I moved up here.
Is she from here?
No, but she was a flight attendant. So she was flying. And so, yeah, she was from the Central Coast. But
Navy, Air Force.
Yeah, just making she was a flight attendant. So we kind of did that first year, which was like between 2 cities, really.
Yeah, right.
And then I moved back there and we kind of settled down together.
Yeah.
I ended up working, in mines. So onshore drilling.
Oh, okay.
Did that for a year or two.
Fly in, fly out?
Yep.
Week on, week off?
Yeah, I was doing 2 weeks on, week off, going over to Perth. So really when you do 2 and 1, you're only getting about 5 days at home. It's a pretty rough
swing.
Yeah.
How many years did you do that?
I did that for a couple, and then I got like the holy grail for people working offshore, like for fly and fly out, which was the offshore stuff. So I tried really hard to get that. Finally got a chance of that and went and did offshore, like oil rigs for a couple of years, which is 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off.
That's the big bucks though, eh?
Yeah, it was good. Man, it changed it. I'd always lived like week to week and just being able to go and do that, still get paid for your 4 weeks home.
What?
But we had a little Lala at that time too. So got to the point where she started to old enough, realizing I was going away when she was 2-ish, a bit older. And so that started to get harder and harder going away.
Right.
Easy for me, heaps it, because we go out, we're doing 12-hour days for 28 days.
Mm.
So you don't stop. The food's amazing out there. You're with like good guys, and you have all your rec time. You've got a gym on board. So for me, like clockwork, but for the family back home, they're kind of going through the motions. The days are slower for them, so it started to take its toll on them. And then it was in that time I ended up finding Jesus. Just before it was around that time, middle of my career offshore.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
And fill us in about that. So where were you at the time? Sydney still, or?
So this is kind of like, this is probably the start of my testimony. We were down in the Central Coast. We wanted to move back to Sydney but we were the only sort of out of all our friends who had a kid. We were 25 and we'd had a brand new baby. And we were kind of thinking, let's move somewhere. I reconnected with my best mate at the time who had been saved in the Navy when we were 19. But we split from that decision because I was with a bunch of Navy guys. There's a whole other story there, but he basically went to church one morning, got plugged in, and it was just massive tension between him and I because he was like a million miles an hour for Christ, and we were all thought like he's lost it. So I pushed very hard against it because how hard he was pushing for it.
Yeah.
Right.
7 years later, we'd reconnected at a wedding. I was actually having trouble with like nightmares. I was getting really bad night terrors for years, to the point where I couldn't sleep. I'd be ringing my parents going like, I understand now how people go insane. Like I'm too scared to go to sleep because I'm getting so tormented in my sleep.
Right.
And Laura at the time said to me one day, when next time it happens, just say the name Jesus. We weren't in church at all. Had
you heard that name apart from it being a curse word? Like,
no.
You'd never thought?
No.
Wow. See, this is good.
Yeah. So Laura grew up in the church, but when we, her own story, but when we met, she wasn't in church. So we were just together, and I was very much not a Christian. But I was having these night terrors. And I remember her just saying, just say the name Jesus. And I was like, what's that going to do? That's ridiculous. And I never tried it. Then I reconnected at a wedding with my mate. And this time he'd sort of dialed it down a bit. He wasn't like, he just learned. He'd been around now for a few years in it. He was, I think he was an intern somewhere. Or he'd been in church life and walking with Jesus for 7 years now. So he wasn't trying to shove it down my face. He just sat there and listened to me. And in his own way, kind of ministered for a while. So we reconnected. So I organised to come up and spend a week with him.
Right. Because he was up here.
He was up here.
Right.
Yeah. So we flew up and we spent some time up here. And then I got a phone call from the rig saying, hey, you've got an extra week off. While I was up here at a barbecue, they rang me. Your roster's changed. You've got an extra week off. Enjoy the time. See you when you come back. So I said to Laura, hey, I've got an extra week off. Let's move up here. And Laura's like, what do you mean? I said, let's move to the Gold Coast. She's like, well, I'm like, now. Now. So the next day, I went out to, the Glades golf course there, the house on the Glades. I walked in there and basically just told the guy, have you got anything available? I said, yeah. And he says, I said, 3 months, pay for 3 months if you can lock it in. He goes, if you can pay for 3 months, no dramas. So they gave me a place. We flew home that afternoon. I went and hired like one of those trailers you can hire a car trailer. Just packed our house up. Drove up the next day up here by myself, unloaded. And this was crazy. In the whole midst of this, some guy I don't know that well, I put like a Facebook ad, hey, can I borrow someone's ute? Thinking one of the boys have a ute. This guy's like one of the boys, like a second layer. Right. Like they're all good. I don't really know him. He goes, I'm going away, man. Use my ute. I always think about that. Like this guy just gave me this like really high-end Ford Ranger, new, and I was towing my life with it for 12 hours, it was crazy. So anyway, I came up, unloaded my stuff, drove straight back home, then drove the family up in Laura's little car, left her and said, hey, off. And she just spent the next 4 weeks in an empty house with like a little TV and a beanbag. And she went to church during that time. Went to a church over in Varsity with my mate. And then and when I got back, they said, hey, you got to come to church. And Laura told me if we're going to be together, I want my kids to grow up in church. I want you to come along.
And so this is foreign to you. Churches.
No, I've never walked into a church before. I didn't like church people. I had because I was, I don't know what it was. I don't know. I mean, I guess you don't know what it was, but I guess it's probably like half of Australian culture. It was like, that's rubbish. And it was just, I just cut it down. I didn't like a lot of, it was also all I'd seen from the media. The media would have had a massive like part of my idea of it. This is all stuff now that helps me evangelize, because I used to be the person that would be like, you're an idiot. So I really understand now people's resistance to it who just don't know. So I really get that. But I walked in the church, and the first thing I noticed was, man, everyone's just way too fake. Everyone's just smiling, and I was like, this is not real. I was used to the oil rigs and stuff, and even the Navy, where everything was kind of like over the top testosterone alpha male. Ugh. Who can fake it the most to be the toughest? And I was really good at that, but it gets tiring. So when I walked into church the first time, I was like, oh man, no one knows me here. I can just smile, chill out, don't have to pretend to be tough. Hey. Or I was just like, this is awesome. Grew my hair long, started dressing nice. So I just sat up the back for a while, and I had that old thing that you hear a lot of people say. I felt like the preacher was just talking to me.
Yeah.
And it was early days for that church. They were only about 6 months old at the time. And so it was very evangelistic, sort of like preaching for new people. And man, it really sucked me in. I was drawn to it. I just kept coming back, kept noticing these people were loving on me.
So Laura's already sort of like, this is cool. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Lala's along the ride.
Lala's like, she's 2. Yeah, she's 2.
And your mate's there anyway.
He's there. Yeah. So it was quite an easy transition.
Yeah, sure.
Like they had connect groups and... I actually went to a connect group before I went to church.
Right.
And I just remember thinking that was really weird. Like I remember not when I went there, I didn't mind the environment. I don't remember the night, but he's told me since, you shared heaps that night. Like you spoke a lot. And I was like,
you spoke a lot?
Yeah, apparently. And he goes, most people when they first come just like sit there and he goes, but you were sharing to all the young guys. And I was like, okay. And so I went to church after I'd been to these like connect groups. It was a funny term. When you don't go to church and someone goes, come to a connect group, I'm like, a connect group? What does that mean? Connect. You know, it's just a bunch of guys talking. About what? It was really weird and really foreign, but I learned to love it. So I went to church and, man, after a while, I just kept going. But then I have to go away again for 4 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were gone, was this stuff breaking down in your heart or mind or while you were away?
Yeah, I don't know if it was the first one, but...
Sure.
Yeah, I just know that it was a little bit of, for me, it was a decision. And I'd been dealing now with these night terrors and stuff. I'd had a little bit of, I would say maybe like a depression that I think most men deal with some sort of worry. I think men carry a different weight to say the wife. And once you sort of step into that, there's a worry that comes on you. I think now, like, man, I don't know how I would do this without a faith.
Right.
There's no way I could do life. I don't know how people do it. So I just remember getting to the point like there's got to be more to life. I slowly got older and started thinking, well, hang on, maybe I don't have all the answers. Like maybe I don't know everything. How am I to hit it? I just started seeing more people who love Jesus and it seemed to be working out for them. And so that drew me in. So I actually made a conscious decision one day that I was going to get saved. I didn't know what it meant. I said, well, I'm going to respond to this altar call they keep doing. So Laura's mum was up from Sydney. This is the time they used to have 2 morning churches, 2 time slots. And I knew if I just dropped it on Laura and Hillary at last minute that I was going to the first one, they wouldn't have time to get ready. I didn't want anyone else there. I was almost like a little bit embarrassed, but I was like, I'm doing this. I don't want it to be awkward. I don't want them asking me. Like, I don't want people asking questions. I was like, I'm going for the altar call. So they woke up and I'm just sitting around. I'm like, I'm going to go to the 8:30 service.
Did you think about that while you were away?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. You're thinking...
I'd lie on the bunk on my rig and just think about, man, imagine if there's a God. Like imagine... And I started thinking, well, there's got to be something because I don't know what my purpose is now. I don't know what the point of this is. I started getting, like my thoughts are getting really deep. Not in a bad way.
That's quite good, eh?
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. I was asking questions. And I was just looking at other people.
I suppose that time away was actually quite good for you.
It was.
To really undo some of that.
And once I did find Christ, it actually built my faith a lot stronger being away.
Yeah, right.
I think so...
Okay. So you come back and you're like...
I'm on. Let's go.
8:30 service.
Tell Laura and Mum, Hillary Mum. I'm out. And they're like, what? Hang on. I'll see you there. I'm serving. Blah, blah, I got to go. And they're like, oh, okay. Because that time I was pretty I was involved, hanging around, but, so it was no surprise. Oh, he's going. I think I was running their security team or something. I can't remember if I was doing any of that yet. But I went. Basically, I didn't even listen to the message. I was like, just wrap it up. Let's get to the altar call.
Come on,
It doesn't matter what he said.
Yeah, like,
you're going to go.
That's right. And so they did. They just asked, and I just remember responding. And at that moment, that wasn't like the encounter moment. This was just my moment. I was just saying, man, I want to do this. I want to give it a try. And so that was probably the first step of me saying, I'm just going to follow Jesus. No encounter, no feelings, no nothing yet. I'm just going to do that.
A decision here?
Mental decision.
A mental decision?
Yeah, a heart decision. I said, I'm doing it. And then I did it.
Following Jesus, who you only cry out to when you have a nightmare.
That's right.
Jesus, I'm going to follow you now. Not knowing what that really means.
Didn't know anything.
Wow.
Probably, yeah, for a long time. And then went back to the rigs.
Yeah.
And then...
did you have a Bible when you went to the rigs this time?
Yeah, I had like a... they were giving... I think Hillsong used to do these...
Word?
The word one, yeah. I had one of those ones.
Yeah.
And I wasn't reading a lot, but I was just thinking about God a lot.
Yeah.
I've always struggled with like reading. I'd read a little bit. I started reading just some Gospels, just trying to read like a page a day just to get into reading. But I spent like my 4 weeks home, I spent every single moment with my mate. Like we'd be at Macca's at like midnight talking about God, talking about it all the time. I just got this download of experiences and God, and I just really went into everything full ball. And then baptisms came around in October, and everyone was talking about baptisms. I just said that no one actually asked me. No one said, "You getting baptized?" I just said to the boys, "I'm getting baptized," and they're like, "Oh yeah, why?" I said, "Because you have to." I was like, "You got to get baptized," and they're like, "It's true, you do." And so baptisms were on October 26th, and I remember at the time thinking, I got told, so glad you're getting baptized. And what happens is the pastor will get you up. He's going to ask everyone, what does Jesus mean to you? And I was like, oh, I'm not talking. You can't ask. No, I just want to get baptized. No, this is a public thing. And so I was panicking about that because I still didn't know. I still had no idea what he meant to me. I just knew that I wanted him. I just didn't know what he meant yet. I said, I don't know how to answer that. So we get there, and then this is the first time it shifted from me from a whole life of saying, prove to me you're there, God. Prove to me. If you're there, talk to me, all that sort of stuff. So we're in worship, and I just remember probably the first time really letting all the walls down. Like a long story short, I hadn't cried since my father's dad passed when I was in year 6.
Your father's dad.
Yeah, so I saw him go through the funeral. He didn't cry. And so it was a weird thing as a kid. I said, "No, Dad didn't cry." Well, I didn't see him cry. So I was like, I'm not crying. So I literally had years of built up. I cry all the time now, but like I had years of built up. I was bored that day, man. I just remember saying to God, like, they're about to get me up on platform with all these people, and they're going to ask me what you are to me. I said, like, I need you. I need you. I need you. And I just remember God just saying, I'm everything to you. And that was my answer. And it was the first time I'd felt the tangible presence of God. And I was like breaking down. And I was like a pretty big dude at the time. Like I probably still, I was just breaking down on the second. I remember where I was sitting, and my mate next to me just looked at me, and he hadn't seen me like that ever in his life. And we grew up together since we were 5 years old.
Wow. But
he knew what was happening. He knew God was just like on my heart. I remember him just saying, "Hey, this is a safe place. It's all good." Laura was probably like, "Well, I've never seen Brodie. What's happening?" Then I walked up, and as you can see right now, I was like, I've actually got something to say. Yeah, so that moment changed my life forever because it was a tangible moment that no one could take away from me.
Yeah.
I felt like God spoke to me, and that was all I needed from a whole family who didn't believe in Jesus, from friends who didn't believe in Jesus. I was like, well, you can kind of say what you want, but God spoke to me.
How long ago was that now?
That was 2014, October 26th.
Wow.
To be exact, yeah.
So that's really quite a powerful conversion moment where you're like...
Yeah, that was the moment.
Not just you making a conscious decision, but
that
you
day
hearing him.
Yeah. It was really... And I know now. It was because I used to say always, prove me, and God doesn't operate on that.
Nah.
It was as soon as I said, I need you. It's the first time I said, I need you. That was the first time, and that was the first time I got a response and an overwhelming feeling, and man, it just changed me forever. Well, my older sister would ask me, like, what is it? Like, what is it now about? And I just remember thinking, I feel like now I have purpose. I have purpose now.
Yeah,
I was always
crazy,
driven. Yeah, I said, I don't know what it is, but I know I have purpose now because of Jesus. So that was crazy.
Your life, you're not living for yourself
at all.
You're living for Him.
Yeah.
Which is the purpose everyone's looking for, right? That's so good.
The crying thing's an interesting thing, eh? A lot of people when they're sharing, this is just a little side track. No, I'm not just trying to highlight the fact that you cried.
Oh, I don't
if
care.
we talk too much now, I'll cry.
I actually enjoy now weeping in the presence. It's a funny thing. It's almost like a joke. Like I haven't quite got in the presence yet because I'm not crying. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, no, but it's because a lot of and especially men, and it's true. Like in every day, like you don't see men cry. It's not a thing. Like if you see a man crying, you kind of like, mate, what's wrong with that bloody guy? But it's funny how when God starts to break people down, they're quite often like, man, I started crying. Like I started.
It's a softening of the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like you said, it's just you cry all the time. I have a big week. Put a worship song on in the car on my way home, and I find myself just weeping. Like,
I think because our hearts are softer now.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So you're always. It's not like it just gets soft for a minute and then it's hard again. I feel like it stays soft.
Yeah.
If you're allowed to. Yeah.
Yeah. And
much
then
better.
gets softer.
That's it.
Sometimes it feels too soft.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah. I love it.
That's so good.
That's amazing, man. I love that. And so, Laura, like, did she find, like, I'm not stealing your story, but something would have shifted in her, like a confidence, like oh, yay, Brodie's found what I've known.
Yeah,
thing?
I think for her too, it probably almost reignited. You know, when you see fruit in somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think it reignited for her.
Cool.
And then 100%.
And now we do that now as a couple over the last couple of years. It's so important to have both of you because you don't both have to be on fire at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to be in the same page. As long as in the same book, it's all right.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Write that one down.
Yeah.
So, but at least you're one of us is always impacting the other one when you're on fire. And so I reckon that happened to her, and then it's just been back and forwards with us now it's been amazing.
Man, her being in the house for you, that story of you coming up here. And then that's ruthless.
We're
set up. I'll catch you later.
Oh yeah,
that's ruthless.
It's pretty hard for her. Yeah, she's pretty hard doing like 28 days. I was gone, and so she would have she went to church twice in that time on the Sunday. And
she's a machine, eh?
She is, yeah.
And then obviously that would have been super encouraging for her because how long after that was it that you actually 3 months before
I responded, and then October when I got baptized.
Yeah,
it was very fast. I felt the biggest thing for us, and I talked to a lot of young guys about this, is because she'd been to church before, she'd been hurt by church when she was younger, she still had walls up.
Right.
I hadn't experienced any of that. So I was like, God's amazing, this is amazing, everyone in church is amazing, no one's going to hurt me, this is the best. Everyone here loves the Lord, what can go wrong? So it took her a while to almost catch up and then go, okay, cool, like, we're running together. So awesome. I went through times where I was like, oh man, is she going to love me? I feel like I'm a different person because I was a different person.
Yeah.
So I was like, she fell in love with the aggressive alpha guy. Not to her, but like this outspoke like that.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of trying to be who I really am, who I really want to be, which was totally different. Yeah. And I was worried that
She's not going to like the new you.
That was the hardest thing, man. And even like, it's a side story, but we weren't married and we had a little 2-year-old.
Right.
And I had this heavy conviction. I was sitting in church and I just remember one day I was having this feeling. I was like, and this is for everyone's got their own convictions, but for me, I was like, I felt like we needed to stop sleeping together until we got married. And we'd been living together. We had a child, but I didn't know how to say this to her because I had no idea what she was going to say. I just didn't know. And I remember one day sitting in the lights, we're about to turn into church. And I sit there and I go, I don't want to sleep together anymore. Like, not even in context. And she goes, same.
Oh.
Straight on the same. I said, let's make a plan. Let's get married.
Man.
Cool. And we didn't.
Yeah.
So it was I think it was like 3, whatever it was. And I know that God really honored that.
Yeah.
In those, it was amazing.
We got married 3 days later.
We got married that day.
Yeah, we got married
in the office. I think it was like 3 months later. We actually got married in the office.
Cool.
No one knew. Just had our best friends there with our pastor.
Man.
Got married. Then a year later, we did like a celebration. Stuff.
Nice.
So that was awesome. It was amazing.
Jeez, that's powerful, eh?
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
And what's a couple of lessons you've learned being a sort of new Christian? I mean, you're 7 years in now. So your friend Grant, when you met him, he was 7 years, and then he, he'd really given you some great input. So you 7 years on now.
Yeah.
Because it's been 7 years for you.
Yep.
What's I don't know, just pearls of wisdom you'd give someone early on in the track,
Yeah, I think I think someone even told me at the start was, put your faith in Jesus, not in the people telling you about Jesus.
Right.
And I always held on to that. Laura's, I think it was actually Laura who said it. Yeah. Was and just place your faith in Jesus, because He won't let you down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything people will. There'll be strange stuff, and so that was the one thing that was passed on to me. That's a must. If you get that right, don't place your faith in the church as a building, as an organization, because something will go sooner or later. You'll get offended, basically, or something will go wrong. So there was that. I think getting around the biggest thing I've learned is having whoever your leaders are, because a lot of this stuff gets thrown around church, leaders, mentors. Pick someone based on who you actually would inspire to be like,
right?
Not the title. So, for example, like if it's a worship leader, don't just pick someone who's a great worship leader, because that's just a title.
Yeah.
Pick someone who, like, you can tell they love Jesus without them telling you. They're a great husband. They're a great father. So I think pick someone you actually for your mentor. Pick someone who's further along, not just 3 years further, 20 years along, who have been busted up and come out the other side. So pick a mentor of someone you actually aspire to be like, not just someone who has the title you want.
Yeah, right.
That's probably the main two things. I reckon.
That's really good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What's your the music side is like always been a quiet
passion
which is crescendoing quite a bit. Because it was sort of a background thing, was it? Or
I just grew up wanting to be, I think, because not knowing Jesus, I just thought, I want to be in a band. It wasn't about being a rock star. I just want to be in a band and travel, and I want to do music. And my dad taught me how to play music. And when I was in a band, we're going really well. We just got into Triple J. I think we're like 20, 21. I remember saying to the band, boys, the bands that make it and don't make it, the difference is the ones who stay together. If we can stick at it, and like a month later, we'll split up. Seriously. So it was one of those things that we just got on the Triple J, and a good manager called us, and it was just insane,
Oh, that sucks, eh?
Well, you can see how much weight I had to my words back then.
Oh, man.
So I thought by 24, I was like, well, the dream's over. Like, I'm too old now to do anything.
Oh, wow.
Because you think like that. In the world, pop stars are 21, 22. So I was like, it's all done.
Yeah.
And then I always loved music, and that's why worship grabbed me, because like people should know, as you know, worship is not music.
Yeah.
Worship's obedience.
Yeah.
But I love music, so I'm drawn to my expression of worship through that. And then I just found this whole other love. I was like, you can actually do this as a family, because Laura's in here. So that's the difference, that I can do worship as a family, and we do. Both my girls sing. And
tell me tell us.
Yeah.
You play the guitar, electric guitar and acoustic.
Yep.
But tell us about the drums.
The what?
Drum thing. Drum thing.
Which part of it? What do you mean?
You just wanted to play the drums, so you just knew how to play.
Oh, well, this is something with my night. So I get,
it's cool.
Yeah. So I get, it's funny we're talking about nightmares. Generally in my sleep, like stuff happens while I'm sleeping. So I'm really now aware of it. But, I had the nightmare stuff, but I also had things where I learned how to do things. I mean, I learned how to drive a manual car in my sleep. So I was on my way to a family member's farmhouse. I knew I was going to be driving a car the next day. And as an 8-year-old, I jumped in this Nissan Patrol, and I could drive manual. I could shift the gears. And I remember just my dad just going like,
who taught you this?
Where have you driven? I'm like standing up, I knew what had to happen. I could do it. The same thing happened with a drum kit. When I was like 17, I think Dad bought me a drum kit. And I dreamt the night before, I'd had a feeling that I was going to get a drum kit for Christmas. I just woke up and just jumped on it and could play it. They were like, how can you play it? I was like, I just learned in my dream. It's crazy, eh? Those two main things.
That's cool.
So I'm really in tune now with what happens in my dreams. I'm always taking notice of them, good and bad.
Yeah, good.
Wow.
Well, let's say the very thing that was terrifying for you has actually been a form of...
Absolutely.
You know.
God definitely speaks to me through that time. So, yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's awesome. So what's happening now? What's happening soon? What do you got planned?
I'm busy now, obviously, with lots of different things. Just in the last couple of years, it's pretty insane to see what God has done from a few just relationships and being obedient and taking steps of faith. How you going for time? You're probably wrapping up soon. So probably we have a recording studio, White Horse Studios, and even how that came about was just like only God, you know, using someone else who came in. I mean, I have a business partner there who we'd known each other like 3-4 weeks, and we used to just train in the gym together. I met him at church. He'd moved up, and we always talk about what we want to do. I said, man, I just want to write worship music. I was operations manager for a company, and he's a builder. And he just said, do you write anything? And I said, yeah. I showed him something on my phone, just like a voice recording of a guitar, like of a song. And he just puts the phone down. He goes, let's build a studio. And I said, that sounds great, but like I'm broke. Like I live in the red every week. And he just said, no, I'll pay for it. I'll back you. I feel like you're called to do this. And he's got like a tradie guy, but big faith. And he just backed. He goes, let's build it. And I said, don't joke, because I'll go and find a place tomorrow. Like I'll be signing leases. I got no money. He goes, I'll pay for it. Wow. And so I went out. He went to Texas or something for like 5 weeks. And he just said, find us a place and let's start. He just trusted it. And that's been our relationship, you know, between our family and their family. We're basically so entwined with our finances, and we just believe in each other and we back each other. And so we started building this studio. The minute it got to a point where he needed to stop putting money in because he needed basically capital to get insurances, he's a builder, he put like 160, 170 grand in already. I then walked into my own company, which had a big influx of money, and I could finish the build for us basically. Wow. And so I could start putting in money, and now we sort of both do it together. And just how it worked was, I would never I talk about, Laura said to me the other day, she goes, how good is what God has done in the last 2 years? She goes, we're sitting there with like Friday night feed, like steak and good steak. She goes, like 2 years ago, do you remember we used to buy those $4 meals from Woolies every single night, every night? And we still couldn't afford to pay bills. Wow. And I was like, yeah, I remember. Like, I remember. That's insane. That's so cool. I could never, and the things I'm doing now, I wasn't planning them back then. Yeah. That's what's, incredible.
That's awesome. Good, Well, there's certainly a lot of people that are inspired by you and just, you know, just love seeing the journey and how you're pretty open about it too. Yeah. Which I think is warm for people, you know. Yeah. It's not a secretive faith. It's an out there faith because you live it, right?
That's right.
It's how you live, and we're just inspired and encouraged by you, Brodie and Bakal.
Close.
What is it? Bukal.
Well, you said buck.
Like Bukal.
Bukal. Like a book.
Bukal.
And an owl.
Bukal.
Bushel's fine.
Nah.
Butchel.
Butcher was my nickname, the Butcher.
The Butcher. Oh, that's cool.
That was a boxing nickname, that's all right.
Yeah, come on, Brodie Butcher.
But thanks for openly sharing and encouraging people, and we just know that God's got great things in store for your family. I mean, it's evident, and it's growing and progressing. Yeah, and I just love that, man. It's really cool. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on here.
It's good.
Thanks for your time, bro.
Awesome.